From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns, the founder, CEO, and Chief Technologist at Studying Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Mr. Anthony Gaenzle with me, and Anthony and I are going to talk about why it's important to build a personal brand. This is one episode you don't want to miss. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm here with my guest today, Mr. Anthony Gaenzle. Hey Anthony, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Staying cold, just like you.
Yeah, it's the state. You're in Pennsylvania. I'm up north, and you know how that goes. It rolls. So,
We're
um,
planning trips down to Florida, right? And getting
yeah.
ready for that.
Oh, I'm planning somewhere warm very soon, so I'm
There
already
you
on that. So,
go.
anyway, today we thought we'd jump in and talk about why you need to build a personal brand. But before we get into that, I want to ask your story about how you ended up in marketing. That's always interesting why people ended up in the career they did.
Yeah, I feel like I hear all kinds of stories. For me, I was in the film industry. I worked a lot of. I've kind of fell into a niche of live sports. I worked with Fo productions for Fox, and I was down in Florida at the time working with the Florida Gators and Orlando
Yep.
Magic.
Yep.
And I liked it, but it just wasn't the right vibe. So I went back to school for journalism. And one of my professors told me, you need to get out of journalism. You need to apply this to a different field because you're not going to make any money. Journalism doesn't pay until you get high up. And I realized that when I started applying for jobs in the field, and the salaries were like at the time, we won't put a year on it because I don't want to date myself, but we'll say they were very low salaries. And so I stumbled into marketing because a friend of mine's father was taking his business online and he needed someone to kind of help. And I had done a little bit in my journalism degree, a little bit into that, blogging and social media and things like that. And that was my first foray into marketing. I created a blog called The Thread about quilts, quilting and
Okay.
fabric. And that was really where it started. And I just developed a love for the creativity and strategy, and it blossomed from there.
Oh, that's awesome. So today we thought we'd talk about personal branding, and we know that corporations like to brand themselves. They like to have control, right? We all know that, especially big Fortune 500s. And the biggest thing is we know that people hire people they love and trust and like. And we know out in industry, many of the services are the same from company A to company B to company B. See,
Right.
so let's start there. Do you agree with that, or do you not agree with that, first of all?
Yeah, I see a lot of sameness. I
Mhm.
was at a conference recently, and one of the presenters called it the Sea of Sameness. And
Yep.
I see that with businesses. I see that with individuals. There's the same message being presented. So to find that unique spark, whether it's the individual personal branding or it's the brand itself, it's so important today. It's that uniqueness really stands out.
Yeah. And what I'll tell you is, and you and I have talked about this once before, the way I brand my agency, believe it or not, right or wrong, I don't do any corporate marketing. I do all personal branding marketing. I made that decision a long time ago because I happen to know people hire the agency because of me. And so I decided to go in that route. And I don't know if that's a mistake or not.
I don't think it is a mistake. I mean, I've experienced the same thing. In various roles I've been in where I was able to present myself as a thought leader in the marketing space. If I'm selling marketing programs or I'm selling a related software, a lot of the leads end up coming through my personal brand more so than the marketing itself. A lot of leads do come through the marketing and close
Yeah,
deals, but when you're able to build that level of trust with your personal brand and on behalf of the bigger brand, that it really does help.
yeah, it sure does. Um, if you were going to start marketing your personal brand, where would you start?
So I would start, and I tell people this, you have to start by understanding a few things. One is your audience.
Yes.
Who are they? What do they need? What problems are they facing? And then understand what you do and how you can help. So, um, you don't want to start talking about something and presenting yourself in a certain way if there's not an audience for it. You also can't present yourself to everybody. And a lot of people, me included, when I first started out, I thought everybody was my audience. So I'm trying to
No,
appeal to everybody and I'm talking about all kinds of different things and nothing's moving. Once you niche down and focus on who you can help, why you do what you do, and how you can help them best, and then you develop a really clear message around that, that's when the magic happens.
I agree. Video or audio or written?
I think you have to have a mix. Honestly, I love a little bit of audio. Audio is fun because you're not always camera ready.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thrown together last minute here, but I'm on camera anyway. But I love writing. I still enjoy writing a lot. I think if you
Me too.
have mix the combo together, so you have a nice long article, but you drop an audio file in there, an audio version of it. People can listen to it instead. Maybe drop a video in there that's related. Make it a multimedia piece, essentially. It has a really big impact.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I would also say the problem with video is many people are never camera ready. They're actually camera shy. And
True.
I do this podcast, I do it in audio and video format, you know that. I've done many of videos, I've been on camera many times over the years, and people say I wouldn't do that. And I've actually had, believe it or not, three guests over the years refuse to do video with me. And I
Hmm.
actually say to them, then I'm sorry, you're not coming on the show
Yeah.
because I release it on YouTube. It's just one of my
Yeah.
requirements, right? But I think video and audio show the personality better than
Right.
sometimes the written words.
I agree 100%. And I try to, going back to the whole quality thing, I like when video is high quality, but in today's age, it's almost like people connect more deeply if, you just record a selfie. I'll go to an event or
Yep.
something and record a selfie of myself talking about
Mhm.
the event, pop it on X or LinkedIn. That tends to do better sometimes than the more polished stuff. But now if you want a high quality, respectable YouTube channel, then you need the more polished content, some nice animations going in, things like that. So a nice mix of that is great. But you have to get comfortable on camera today. You really
Yeah.
do. I can't imagine being asked to join a podcast and not being willing to jump on. I don't look great right now. I don't have a suit on or tie or
Me
anything
neither.
nice, but here
It's
we
okay.
are. And I don't care. This
Yeah.
is me. It, like you said,
Yeah.
it shows who you really are, and that's important.
So what I would tell you is from a video perspective, I, excuse me, I think what really changed it was COVID. If you remember during COVID, all the news anchors were doing the news from their living room or their
Yeah.
basement. And the weather, no, they weren't. They weren't in the
Yeah.
studio. They were doing it all
Yeah.
remotely. And
I
then I
remember. Yeah.
think the world looked at it. I was already doing video at that point for other things. And the world looked at it and said, if the news anchors can do this on a national news network owned by a national conglomerate, then I can do
Hmm.
this. That's the
Right.
first thing that changed it. The second thing I think has really changed it is AI,
Yeah.
because there's so much AI content out there and so much polished AI. The public is actually clamoring for realism, and to do realism, you don't want your content as polished. So that's an
Yeah.
interesting twist, right?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think like the selfie video, things like that. And
Yeah.
and then also you see a lot of social media posts. at first I fought with this because I've come from a writing background. I have a
Hmm.
degree in journalism. It hurt to read, missing punctuation, starting off a sentence with the lowercase letter, things like that. But I now if I have a I used to if I found a typo in a post, I would delete it. Now if I find a typo in my post, I'll let it ride because it does show your human side. It doesn't have to be so polished and sound perfect, or people instantly think it's AI today, and you don't want that.
Yeah. Now, if we're talking personal branding, people say, "Oh, I've got an X account, I've got a Facebook account, I've got a TikTok account. I don't really need a website." And I have a lot of thoughts on that. What are yours?
I think it depends on the person. Now, if you are for example, I published a couple of books. I want to promote those. I feel like having my website, having a personal blog on there, things like that, different that it allows me an owned space. So your website is your own space. You own it.
Yep.
You don't own social
Yep.
media. That can change anytime. You don't own forums and things like that. So I think that a website is really good and most people can benefit from it. I think if you are just looking to build a career and you're going to, work up the corporate ladder, maybe you don't necessarily need that. You do need a strong social media presence, but I think if you're, selling any kind of content or you're selling services yourself or anything like that beyond your 9 to 5, I think a website is really important. And like I
No,
said, it's
I
the only space online that you own.
no, I 100% agree with you. Platform choice. Do you have one?
WordPress. Always,
Okay.
as far as web, I always love WordPress. It's just so much easier for me. I don't have a developer background, so there's so many ways I can work with one of my developer colleagues to build anything that I can't build, and then I can make a lot of the updates on my own very easily.
Yeah.
And WordPress is great. Still, it still ranks much higher as far as like from a search SEO perspective and various ways. And I will always say WordPress, at least for now. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll
Yeah.
change my mind eventually, but there's nothing that even rivals it at this point for me.
No, I agree with you so much. Um, Social media platforms. So first thing I would say to somebody starting a personal brand is don't try and be everywhere because I
Yeah.
think that's a mistake. Um, where should they go?
So first of all, you're 100% right, and I that's another mistake I made years back. I had
Me too. Me
Instagram
too.
and I had Pinterest and I had everything under the sun. Back then it was Twitter. Maybe some of the people listening today might not even know what Twitter is.
X,
They're like, you mean
X.
X?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for me right now, I focus on X and LinkedIn. I shut down my Instagram account. It just wasn't having the value that I wanted. My audience wasn't there, which is one of the main points I want to raise. You have to understand, going back to understanding your audience, you have to understand where they're active. If they're active on
Yeah.
TikTok and you're going to reach them on TikTok, by all means be there. But if they're more on LinkedIn, X, something like that, you don't need to be doing dance videos on TikTok to impress people because your audience isn't there. You're wasting your time. So narrow
Yeah.
it down. I mean, I like saying just one or two. I like to have two though because you never know what's going to happen with one. Algorithm change, anything can throw you off. Site shuts down, rules come up that hinder you. So I like to have at least two. That's why I find a nice mix between X and LinkedIn, and that's where my audience is. So first of all, figure out where they are and then that's where you narrow it down. That might take some testing, and you might have to try out a few different platforms, but be wary. Don't get too locked into one. If it's not working, you can shut it down and move on. You're not stuck with it.
Yeah. I agree with you on X and LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is undervalued just because of the spammy nature of the marketers on LinkedIn, and you and I both know
Yeah.
what they're like. I ignored
Oh
them.
yeah.
Um, I do have a Facebook account, and to be fair, I really only use it for family communication. We have a family group chat that goes on, and they don't like to move to another platform, so well. And I have an Instagram account, but that's more for perusing dog photos and spa photos and things like that. But from a business perspective, I almost never use it. So I'm in the same point of view. And of course, having a personal brand, let's not forget YouTube in the middle of that. You probably are going to want a
Yeah.
YouTube account sooner or
Yeah.
later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
I have I've had a YouTube account in the past, and I dropped it only because my availability and bandwidth to actually make something valuable happen
yep.
didn't work for me. However, it's right there on the edge of jumping back into it. YouTube's hugely valuable. And yeah, if I'm working with clients and different brands. If they have a taste for video, that's obviously the first platform to go to, and it's on my radar. So you'll start seeing YouTube videos on my end soon. Just don't I didn't it's one of those things where it's time consuming. I wanted to make sure I did it right, and I just didn't
Yep.
have that bandwidth at the time.
Yeah, and to be fair, bandwidth's an important consideration in all this because as people creators go through bandwidth, head issues, mental health issues, all related,
Yeah,
way more than a lot of professions, and we go through a lot of burnout. And you just got to kind of
yeah,
manage that. And
hmm
I mean, even I've gone through phases. I mean, I've done 625 odd podcasts, and even I go through phases where, no, do I got to do one this week? Do I want to do one this week? Yes, I need to do. It's like, so
hmm
you gotta manage that kind of, and
yeah.
I think that's really important too. So only
I
do
think
what
some
you can
people
do.
see. Yeah, no, and I think sometimes some of the bigger creators have teams behind them that they don't
Mhm,
necessarily
mhm.
show. So some of the smaller creators think, well, I have to be here, 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 and here, and
Yep.
I have to be high quality and always on. They don't realize that they're one person. This person has a 10-person team behind the scenes, even though it looks like one person.
Yeah. But what I would say to you is what can help the small creator is those two dreaded letters in marketing. And I think you know where I'm going to go, called AI,
Yep, yep,
right?
yep. Oh
AI
yeah,
does, if used properly and you get good at the prompts, can help
yep.
level the playing field a little bit.
100%. Yeah, I use it for image generation. I'll use it to help guide topic ideas and conduct research and things like that. It's a really valuable tool that can save you a lot of
Yep.
time as a small creator. And it's basically you can end up a one person of one. You can do the work of a team of three or four or five if you use it if you use it properly, like you said, the right prompts.
Yeah. The show notes for this podcast are all Gemini created. So I
Nice,
literally take the audio and say to Gemini, now you have
nice.
my audio. Give me the show notes. And it gives me a
Yeah,
summary, it gives me the show notes, and I'm done. And I'm not paying somebody off
yeah.
some site a lot of money to get off to get off show notes. I'm just doing them and they're done. And I have them in 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
that's not hard to take. So
Yeah, I
that's
want to go ahead. Sorry.
that's really good to know, right? So
Yeah, and on that note, what I was gonna say is I actually got paid, and this was a while back, but a company that ran podcasts would pay
yep,
me to watch the show and pull out the highlights. And it was a few $100s. It didn't take me very long, but now I'm sure this was years ago. I'm sure they use AI to pull those out, and they pay nothing. So saves a lot
yeah.
of time and money.
Yeah. Now the written word, and I was thinking going in this conversation, do you remember a gentleman out of Australia by the name of Darren Rose? You might remember that name. Yeah.
Sounds
Pro
familiar.
blogger, pro blogger.
Okay. Oh
So
yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Darren wrote a course back in the day, and I'm thinking back about 15 years ago because I have a copy of it. I bought it somewhere. And it was how to create a blog, one post a day for a month, basically in 31 days to increase your brand. Now, that technique doesn't work anymore, but it was still what Darren wrote back in the day. And then we go to that, and then we move on to things like, um, does that work? Now, I would say that type of marketing doesn't work. I would think more importantly is consistency, consistency, consistency.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at my social media content, you'll see that word
Yeah,
used quite a bit.
I know that.
And and it really is. It's about consistency. adding that human element and that
Hmm.
authenticity behind it. And if you write two posts per week instead of one every day, and they're, those one every day are lower quality, and your two posts per week really have you inside and deeply inside them, then you're gonna have a bigger impact for sure.
Yeah, yeah. The other interesting place writers are going right now, and having played in this space, I get it. It's Substack. Substack's become a community where a lot of writers are building personal brands on right now.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of colleagues who have a presence on Substack. I don't. I use Beehive. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
Beehive.
I do very
Um,
much so.
I, I I use that. I paused my newsletter for the last 3 months, just to kind of. I moved into the CMO role here at Sharp back in August. So I kind of paused that newsletter for a little bit just to kind of get acclimated and get my feet on the ground. But I'm relaunching that here in 2026, and Beehive's really great because you can build similar stuff to a similar community to Substack, but you can also monetize it. And I think you can monetize Substack,
You
but
can.
it
Yeah.
monetizes based on ads in your piece. So it's a very similar platform. But yeah, those type of forums. I don't hear as many people using Medium anymore. I think that might be
No.
fading a little bit, but Substack I hear all the time.
Yeah. I actually took our newsletter and my own newsletters, except for my client only ones, and I moved them from a newsletter platform to Substack just
Yeah,
because of the
nice,
community value. And actually, I have large numbers, and those numbers have gone up even more because they're out in
nice,
the community. So that's
nice.
the cool little thing. So
Yeah, it
I've
definitely setting up in a community like that really helps you grow much more quickly. And the tools available to you are so much better than just trying to run your own, via whatever different email platform.
yeah,
There's so many great tools available.
yeah. What would you say is the number one problem that people have building their own personal brand?
A lot of people that I run into, they don't have two things. They don't understand how to build their own voice, which sounds like common sense. You should know what your own voice is, but it's not
Yeah.
as easy as it sounds. That you really have to kind of step back, and there's so many examples out there, and people want to sound like somebody else who's successful. So there's that. And then the second one is patience. People want to put themselves out there, and they see social media is filled with highlight reels, right? So people think that I can post a few posts on X, a couple posts over here, a video on TikTok, and by next month I'm going to be the talk of the town. But they're not. And a couple months down the road, they start to get frustrated and they just give up. And then you see these dormant profiles out there, or they're even worse, they're getting really negative and they're complaining about the algorithm and this and that. And it gives a very bad vibe, and then it destroys their personal brand. So I think patience is a major thing as well.
Yeah.
It kills
What
people.
I was patience is a big one. A couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I worked with an author and he wanted to build his personal brand for a book in a month. And I sat him down. I said, "You're kidding me, right?" And he said, "No, you can make this go viral. Videos go viral all the time." And I'm like, "No, no, no." And I put all kinds of stuff in writing. And he said, "Oh, go do it anyway." Okay, you want to throw your money away, fine. And then he came back to me in a month and said, "You really didn't do much. My numbers didn't." Because what does he not understand that, first of all, it's not easy to make something go viral. That's the
Yeah,
first thing. The
yeah. There's
second
a
thing
lot of
is
luck involved, honestly.
yeah, he had no patience, and that's
Yeah.
just the reality of it all. And
Mhm.
actually, so much so that Bridget Williard and um, I released a podcast yesterday, and her marketing word of this year was patience. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
She does a great job, by the way. I always enjoy seeing her posts pop up in my feed.
yep,
The the patience is a real killer. I see it all the time, and the way I look at it, I'll throw this example out there. I was sitting in a
sure,
meeting.
please,
I was working as director of marketing for a big law firm, and we had a meeting kind of early on when I was there, talking to the shareholders and others about uh, personal branding, and we were talking specifically about building your LinkedIn profile. And one of the shareholders raise his hand. I called on him, and he said, I posted a few weeks ago, um, and I got a few likes, but I didn't get any leads out of it, and it's done nothing for me. And I said, is that the only post? I delved a little bit deeper, found out that was the only thing he posted. It was a post about his favorite books of the year. And I said, if my job was as easy as posting one time on LinkedIn and you know, driving hundreds of thousands of dollars in new business as a result, I'd be out of a job or I'd be a
Yeah, I was
billionaire,
going to say that.
either
Yeah.
way, like, so it's, that's the mentality some people have. They don't grasp the concept of how long it really does take to build something.
No, it's true. And remember, marketing, as I always describe it, and I don't care if it's your personal brand or a corporate brand, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So
Yes.
it's about the long-term goal, that long generation. I mean, I've had people hire me because of personal branding 3 years after they found me. So the cycle times are getting longer and longer, and we need to realize that and be prepared for it.
100%. I agree. And that's why the
Yeah,
education's so important.
yeah,
Because we're competing with other people's highlight reels all over social media, and they're not showing you the journey that it took them to get you there. They're just showing the end result and how they're driving in a Maserati or whatever you want to say. They don't show
yeah,
you the
yeah.
5 years of sleepless nights and missing a kid's basketball game or whatever. They don't show you that part
No,
of it.
I agree with you. If somebody came to you tomorrow and they said, I want to start my personal brand, and we've talked about the two key things, would be a couple things you would tell them to do right away.
So I like to start with sort of a review of what your personal brand looks like already.
Good.
So what's online? What's out there about you? Is
Yep.
anything out there about you? If nothing's out there about you, that's good and bad. It's starting from scratch, which it makes it a little harder, but it's better than if there's a lot of bad stuff because having to clean things up, it can be a real pain. So I say
And a
start
mess.
there.
Yep.
And then as we discussed, the second one is to really let's talk about your audience and let's dive deep into
Mhm.
your audience. Who are you? And why should these people care? And that's kind of once you make sure you're clean slate, is so important. You don't want to start personal branding and you have all these horrible things out there about you online, or you have a
It's true.
really bad web presence or something. It's like having an ugly website. If you're going to run an ad campaign to an ugly, non-optimized website, you're wasting your money, you're throwing it away. So, I think
Yep.
those two things are where I tell people to start. And then we start talking about what makes you special? What is your brand? What's your voice? Let's start to develop your voice. So I think
Yep.
those are kind of the things that you really need to get, because if you start out, it's okay to test things and fail and mess around and ch make changes and learn. But if you start out with no direction, your first year or so is just going to be a hodgepodge mess of you trying different voices and going with the wrong audiences and things like that.
And that doesn't work so well. No, I agree with you. And the other thing, and you've said it two or three times in this podcast, know your audience. Because if you don't know that, how can you market? I mean, that's
Yeah.
and which social media platform you choose to market on. That's the
Hmm.
other thing. If you know your audience, you know what platform you're actually going to go on.
For sure. Yeah. You'll know where they're active. You'll know the problems they face, and
Yeah.
you'll understand which they're going to face multiple problems. You can't solve them all. Which one of the problems can you solve the best and relieve the most pain for them? And then go all in on clearly explaining how and why and why that matters and building those connections.
Yeah. And let's kind of focus on that for a minute. You just said something really key. Know the problems and focus in on those. And that's what you got to do when you're marketing. You got to say, how can I solve this person's problem the best way? And that's something many people don't look at. It's like, oh, how can I promote my product? No. How can
Mhm.
you use what you do to solve somebody else's? That's the key.
I agree 100%. It's less about, from my perspective, and me saying that I help you build a personal brand, or I do marketing, or I help you grow your brand, your business. That's great. A million people say that. But, dig deeper and show what that transformation looks like. Is that taking your business from $500,000 to 5 million? Is that saving your business $750,000 by showing you how to integrate
Yep.
technology and automate things?
Yep.
Show the headaches that you relieve rather than just saying I do X, Y, and Z.
No, no question. Your company, Sharp Innovations, can you help somebody with a personal brand, or do you just do
Yeah.
corporate?
No, definitely. So, since I joined, I'm able to work with people to help them with their personal brands. So there are some clients more in the B2B space who we've helped kind of build out LinkedIn, professional LinkedIn presence and things like that. So it's definitely something that Sharp can help with in line with our other marketing. It can be mixed into a marketing program for a company and a lot of
Um,
times it's more forward, and it's going to take a forward thinking company that understands that it's not just about your logo, it's about the
yeah,
people behind the logo. And if we
yeah,
get someone like that in the door, then we can certainly help them.
yeah, and it would almost be worth, I'm thinking about this, just saying the people behind the wall, it almost be worth doing some storytelling in that too. Like,
Yeah.
how did you come here? Why did you, instead of
Yep.
just the old school way of doing things.
Yeah, people want to know who you are. They want to know what
Yeah,
brought you to where you are. They
yeah,
want to know not even they don't even want to just know the good stuff. They want to know some of the trials and tribulations you faced along the way, how you beat them, and how you got to here. That's because they want to be here. They want to, get rid of the headaches that you faced and beat. But they want to know that you actually did it and you're not just saying it. So show them this part of it so they can see that.
so true. Hey, Anthony, thanks so much for joining me. Great conversation. If somebody wants to find more about you or your company, where's the best way?
Yeah, so sharpinnovations.com, just the typical way that Sharp and Innovations are spelled is how you find Sharp. You can find me on X. It's just at Anthony Gaenzle. I'm also on LinkedIn under my name. Where I'm other places as well, but I'm not as active. Newsletter. You can also go to E and I Creative. It's eicreative.online. That's where you'll find information about my books and more about my personal brand and links to the Beehive newsletter, things like that. So you can find me a lot of places. You
Yeah.
can also find me
Thanks,
in
Ed.
Lancaster, PA, walking around sometimes.
Yeah. Thanks, Anthony. Have an amazing day, my friend. Be well.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's great talking with you again.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Anthony for joining me on this edition of the STM Show. The STM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.